Hi friends. So here's my question for you today. Why are we as Christians persecuted today? I mean, we see that very clearly. I mean, there are over 50 nations in our world that it's illegal to even be Christian and practice one's Christian faith. And in the Western world, we know, Western world including like the United States, it's difficult to be a Christian, to live out our Christian faith in the public square. So there are people in the media, there's people in the news, there's people in entertainment, there's family members, there's classmates and neighbors and people that we work with. When we identify as being Christian, or even more specifically, we identify as being Catholic Christian, then expect to have questions asked. Expect there's going to be some judgment going on. And we've all heard it, before, that we're out of date, we're archaic, because of our beliefs and our values about family and about marriage and about the dignity of the human person. We're called haters and bigots, and we're persecuted against because of our religious beliefs. So sometimes that's difficult, but where does that come from, and why? Is that a recent phenomena, or is that something that is in every age? Does that go back to Jesus? Does that go back before Jesus? In order to answer that very important question, like, why are we as Christians today persecuted? And where does that all come from? We got to go back to the scriptures. Wisdom 2, and it's going to start with chapter 12. So one of the things you got to keep in mind is that so much of the Old Testament is filled with prophecy. And prophecy, a lot of it about the coming of the Messiah and who the Messiah was going to be. Well, Wisdom 2 is an example of that. Wisdom 2 verses 12 through 20 are all about the Messiah and who he's going to be and what's going to happen to him. But if it's about the Messiah, then also vicariously, by relation, a lot of of us is going to be in there too. It's going to describe a lot, explain a lot for us. So what I thought I would do today is just kind of take it line by line and just help you to see that this is just so clearly prophetic. Like, there really was prophecy. Hundreds of years before the birth of Jesus, there was all these prophecies about who he was going to be. And this is just one of those, and it's quite remarkable. So let's just follow along. Let us lie in wait for the righteous man, because he is inconvenient to us and opposes our actions. He reproaches us for sins against the law and accuses us of sins against our training. I mean, what does that sound like? That sounds like Jesus, right? And it sounds specifically like the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes who are fed up with Jesus, accusing him of sins against their own training, right? That, like the scribes, they're supposed to know the prophets, and they were supposed to know especially the law of Moses. And Jesus goes after them several times, like, you don't get it. You don't even understand the scriptures that you're reading, right? All right, let's move on. He professes to have knowledge of God. Well, that's our Jesus, right? And calls himself a child of the Lord. He became to us a reproof of our thoughts, and the very sight of him is a burden to us. Well, that's a big one, not just for Jesus, but also for us. That it came to a point in Jesus' life that for the leaders of the Jewish faith and some of the Jews, just to see Jesus in public, not even hearing what he was teaching or preaching or the miracles that he was performing, it caused their skin to crawl. They couldn't stand that he was being listened to, that he was being believed in, that the people loved him and that they were following him. So the very sight of him is a burden to them. But isn't it the same with you and I as Christians to this day who try to live a righteous life, not a self-righteous life, but a righteous life, a right relationship with God. That people just being around us and the very sight of us is going to be a burden to them. Because why? Because some of them are not living a righteous life. Some of them are not striving for holiness. Some of them are not living virtuous lives. Some of them are living hedonistic lives. And when they run into us as Christians, and they know that we're trying, because we're all sinners, but trying to live that life, it's a burden to them. Because his manner of life is unlike that of others. If we're truly Christian, the manner of our lives is going to be unlike the manner of other people's lives. We're going to stand out in this culture. And when we stand out, like a 7-foot tall person standing in a big crowd, people are going to notice us, especially if we're living out our faith. And that's certainly what happened with Jesus, right? He stood out. And his ways are strange to us. Again, that was Jesus, and that's certainly our life. Christianity is becoming stranger and stranger to a secular, unbelieving society. We are considered by him as something base, and he avoids our ways as unclean. And he calls the last end of the righteous happy, and boasts that God is his Father. Ooh, that's a big one, right? Because Jesus boasted that God is his Father. And he got put to death for that, for blasphemy. And you and I call God our Father, God's not just the God of the cosmos, the God of the universe, a distant God, a deistic God, just kind of winds the clock of the universe, sets it in motion, then leaves whatever's going to happen to happen. No, our God is a Father that intimately loves us. And that is strange to many people to this day. Let us see if his words are true, and let us test what will happen at the end of his life. For if the righteous man, that's Jesus, is God's Son, he will help him and deliver him from the hand of his adversaries. And in fact, that's exactly what God ended up doing, the Father did for his Son. He delivered him. He delivered him from the hand of his adversary, which is the devil. He delivered him from eternal death and into eternal life. So that's what happened to this righteous man who is the Son of God. But my friends, that's exactly what's going to happen to us too. We're going to run into persecution and trials by other people, just like Jesus did, by being his followers. But Jesus is going to deliver us from them. Not from them necessarily, but through them. We're going to be redeemed. And we're going to receive our reward. Let us test him with insult and torture him. They're talking about the Messiah, and the Messiah is going to be tortured. That we may find out how gentle he is and make trial of his forbearance. Wow. That's exactly who Jesus was from the cross. The Son of God, the creator of the universe, at any moment could have come down off of that cross and smited all of the people that put him to death and truly shown his power. But what he did, he showed his gentleness and his forbearance, his patience, his mercy. He remained on the cross as an act of love in order to save the very persons that were persecuting him. And those very persons are you and I to this day. It wasn't just the Jews and the Romans 2,000 years ago. Let us condemn him to a shameful death. Whoa. The most shameful death in Jesus' day was to be crucified. It was the worst way to die, physically, the torture. And it was the most shameful death. When somebody's family member died as a criminal, for instance, on a cross, it was a shameful way to die. And here they are. Here's God speaking through the wisdom writer, telling us exactly what's going to happen to the Messiah. Hundreds of years before his birth. For according to what he says, he will be protected. And that's exactly what happened to Jesus. According to what he said, he was raised from the dead, and he is protected with the Father forever. Listen, I read just one passage among many Old Testament passages here from Wisdom 2, starting with chapter 12. Simply to show you that what you and I are going through today as Christians, if we're living our lives right as Christians, then that means we're going to be persecuted. Okay? Not by everybody, just like in Jesus' day, but by those who don't share our values and don't share our beliefs and don't share our faith in God and the vision of humanity and God's mission for marriage and family life and how he put it together, our morals, and how we make decisions and how we take actions in this world. What it is that is important in our priorities. When we run up against people, whether that's individuals or that's institutions, like the entertainment institution in Hollywood, right? Expect that just like the one that we take the name Christian, Christ from, that we're going to be persecuted from. But also expect, as you hear in this prophecy, and as Jesus himself teaches, is that you're going to be rewarded. You're going to be rewarded. Like it says here, that he's going to call us blessed. In fact, he does that. Even in the teaching of the Beatitudes, which means blessed. Blessed are you who are persecuted. Blessed are you when they insult you and utter all these lies against you. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. But here's the deal. It's not just going to be in heaven. Because when we follow him in this life, even though we're going to know ups and downs, which, by the way, living in this world, you're going to know ups and downs whether you follow God or not. But he's going to make meaning out of him. He's going to bring purpose to him. And we're going to grow in fulfillment in that purposeful life. And not despite the fact that, people are going to call us names and get us wrong and even come against us. But because of that, we're going to know redemption in this life. We're going to know joy and peace, and we're going to know our Savior. We're going to know who we are. And just like Jesus, we're going to know what to do with our lives. We're not going to destroy our enemies. We're going to call our enemies close to God, so that the very people that get us wrong and sometimes hurt us, through us and God's grace, we might be able to bring them to the very life that Christ came to give us to. Why are we persecuted? Because we follow Christ. And how? In the very ways that Christ was persecuted back then. And yet, the very things that happened to Christ after his persecution is the promise that we will receive. What do you want in life? Till next time, friends.